Hello and welcome to a quick little extra video that I'm throwing in between just because a lot of you people have been asking me about this thing right here, and it's called the Swiss Army pedal, instead of a Swiss Army knife. And that's a funny little joke thing that Sean, which is one of you subscribers, came up with. A lot of people have been saying things and talking about things that have made me wonder if you understand what this is. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I feel like it more reflects on me not explaining things very well, and so don't feel like you're stupid if you have asked about this and now you're seeing this video. You talking to me and asking questions lets me know where I need to improve and where I have to explain things in a more clearer way, I suppose. So in today's video we're going to talk about this and look into it a little bit more closely than we've done before. I've spoken to a couple of you and told you that I am going to build a new one that is a better, more upgraded one. A lot of you have also asked for me to make a video showing you how to make this, and I've told you guys that this is a prototype thing that I'm going to try to make even better. So there's no real point in me showing you how to make this. This is not that video. I'm sorry, that video is coming. It's going to take a little bit longer and it's probably not coming this year. I wish it was, but I don't think it will. But anyway, this is one of the first things I built when I started making pedals. So I've had it for a long while, and I built it with a very simple idea in my head that I could test things very easily. For example, I could test components, I could test circuits, I could test, diode clippings, for example. And in the beginning it was mainly to test components because I wanted to figure out what different resistors did to the sound of the guitar, and what different capacitors and diodes and all of those things, what would happen if I had that thing there. When you look at schematics and you look at just values when you're a beginner, you're going to get confused and think, oh, what are all these values and what do they do and how do they change the sound? And you can get into the idea that, or at least I did, I got into the idea that I need to know what all these things sounds like. Oh, I need to know what the difference to a guitar is if the signal goes through a 10k resistor or a 15k resistor. What happens to your signal? And the thing is, you don't need to nerd in like that. I feel like if I could tell myself one thing is to relax about those things and maybe just have fun, and you will sort of learn in a roundabout ballpark sort of way what things does by just experimenting, and you don't have to sit there and go through all the values and plug everything into a makeshift weird pedal that lets you push them in through your signal into the amp. And all of those things also don't really matter anyway, because the components in themselves aren't really that special. It's the whole of it, everything together, which is something that I'm kind of grateful for this, because I learned that way. I know it's something that Josh over at JHS has spoken about and said, but it's something that you don't really understand, like really understand, until you start messing around with parts and you realize that. I've gotten some questions, as I've already said, that made me feel like this thing was misunderstood. And so, let's jump into this, take a look at it, and see what you think. Okay, so here is the pedal. And this is one of the jacks, and it's mounted to a washer, metal washer. Nothing special. The metal washer sits in this groove and is glued in place with epoxy glue. And the same thing is on the other side. And this is supposed to go just like your pedal, this being the bottom and this being the top. So that means that this is where your guitar comes in. And here's one of the first things that will be improved. It will be written down here and down here by the jacks, which one is in and what is out, so that you don't have to assume anything. And that is one of the difference, because when I made this, I didn't even think that I would make YouTube videos. It's one of those things that I started doing that afterwards, and so I didn't need this to be explained to anyone but myself. The jack has two connections because it's a mono jack. Both of these are mono jacks, and that means that there are two connections, and one is the ground connection and one is the lead connection. Everything, at least when it comes to electricity and guitars, pedals, things like that, will have a lead and a ground. If you're working in stereo, you will have a left and a right channel and a ground, but that's for another video. So to simplify things, you will always have two, ground and lead. And so I usually, because I want to keep things simple and I want to be able to keep track of what I'm doing, but also for the video's sake, will have ground always be black. So you can see this wire here, it's black, and it's just going from this jack to this jack. And there's nothing about it that is anything else. And then there is a lead cable, and the lead cable just goes from one jack to the other, but in between we have this switch. And it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but you can see a tiny little jumper cable here. If you've seen any of my other pedal videos, this will all seem very familiar. But on the bottom here we have a jumper cable, and I doubt you can see that, but the middle row has the jacks connected. And then the upper row has these two alligator clippers. So if I put these together like this, this switch would basically do nothing, because you would jump from one loop that just lets you go from this jack to this jack to another loop that goes from this jack to this jack. The only difference you would be able to pick up is that there would probably be more noise in this, because this is not sorted and it's not as nice of a connection, and therefore some noise interference would most likely occur, but there shouldn't be any real tonal difference or anything like that. I hope that all makes sense to you. Alligator clippers like these are used in a lot of things, and because it's a copper wire with these clippers, they can conduct electricity. So you can, for example, connect clippers like these to a battery and then also to an LED, and therefore not have to use any solder connections if you quickly need to just test an LED or something like that. They're usually used for when you need to put a wire somewhere to see if that's the right place to put a wire or something, and then you replace them with the actual wire you want to use in that place. That's why I'm using it in this scenario, because if I, for example, have a circuit that I'm building and I want to try it out and see if it works without attaching all the jacks and different cables, then I can just plug the in and outs to this, and I already have the jacks. I can plug those in to my guitar and amp, and then I can just play it and see what happens. It also lets me know if something is wrong before I put it into the enclosure. A lot of the times, if you make mistakes in building a pedal or something, it will be when you're wiring this part up. Usually wiring up a circuit isn't the main issues, unless you're following some dodgy thing that you found online in some weird forum and you have no idea what you're really doing, and there's a bunch of weirdness going on. There! Da-da-da-da! Now I've improved on it with just some tape. No, seriously, that was just a joke. So, a question that is very common that I ask is when I have a LM board here clipped to this, and I have one of these little combination of diodes You all probably know which video it is I'm talking about. A very common question I get is that it would be better if I somehow showed the schematic so that you could follow along easier. And there is nothing wrong with asking that question. I understand the question, but I feel like that means that you're not really understanding what it is I'm doing and that I need to explain what it is I'm doing. The guitar comes in here and goes to the switch, and I can decide whether or not to bypass it or not. If I put it in here, it just goes to the board, comes out of the board, goes through this little thing, goes back into this, and goes to this jack. So it's just a loop. I'm not doing anything with it. I'm not doing anything special, basically is what I'm trying. There is no circuit really for me to make a schematic out of. It's just I'm putting on 2 jacks to it. It's basically the same thing as just taking the out and in of that circuit and putting the jacks on the in and out. The only thing that is a little bit different is that this has to be grounded. And this is where I should have done things a little bit better and explained it a little bit better. I don't have a way to ground anything to this. So that means that if you have a circuit that needs a ground, I have to take one of these alligator clippers and put it onto these metal things, and basically that way connect it to those grounds that already exist there. Then plug this to the circuit. So if you look closely, you will see that there is a board, and something like this, for example, will be connected to the yellow one, and then there will be some other colored one, and I think I used a combination of a black and a yellow one because it was so fiddly that for me to switch things around that I needed to connect 2 of these, and I connected a black and a yellow one, which was not a good idea, but yeah, you learn, I suppose. And then that will be connected at some place where there is a ground. The LM boards are really good in that way because they have like 4 connections that are ground or 3 connections that are ground, but they're just one ground. So if you just need one ground connection to that board, which is basically all you need, you have a lot of places where you can attach that ground, and you don't need to worry basically at all. The board has a ground where the in is, and the board has a ground where the out is, and they are supposed to just go to the jacks, but you don't need to connect both, especially not if both the jacks are grounded together with each other like this. I hope this has explained and cleared things up a little bit. When I go to rebuild this, I'm gonna have black connectors like these attached to these, so it will be even easier for you to understand, because you will have the 2 yellow ones just this way, and then you will also have 2 black coming off the jacks like this, and it will basically be replacing this black wire here, because there has been some times when I've been building things where this black wire has been an issue and created ground loops and other things for me. So I've just not, because I've been thinking of how to make this better in its whole, and there are more things coming to it which we're not going to get into, but yeah, that's going to be replaced. And so hopefully in the future there's going to be even better results with this, because I know I just put the tape here right now, but in future videos I probably will have it burnt in, and I will probably also have like a little picture of a guitar here and a little picture of an amp or something, just for fun. I will have an LED, I'm thinking, so that you can also see it light up. And for anyone who wants to know, this is just a piece of aluminum that I bent to this shape. You can even see some of the markings from bending it. It's a very crude job, but that's because I really didn't want to make this into something that is like super beautiful or nice. Like it's not a beautiful hand tool. It's not like when I made this, for example, and I actually used my lathe and cared. This is something that I'm supposed to be able to step on and kick around. Okay, so super quickly, just because I know that there is someone who wants to make this and are fine with the way this is already, you're probably going to want to make my newer version of this when I show you it, because it's going to be so much better. But if you can't wait until then and you want to make this, this is the way it's made. this is the back of the switch, which means that the input is on this side, because obviously if this is in and we flip it over, then in is on that side. Okay, and you have two connections from this, and the ground is just going over to the other ground, like so. They're just connected. I hope you can see that line. This pen is really bad. Down here we just have a jumper from the two outer on the down side, and those are on the back right here. You can even see the cable, and that's not something that I'm going to change. And then this jack has a lead wire, and that goes to the middle here, and this one has a lead wire that goes to the wire here, and then it's just the two alligator clippers right here, and I made tiny little crab claws. Blah. And I hope that makes sense. If you want to wire up an LED, you would do it right here, and you would have a wire here that goes to a resistor that goes to the LED. This pen is dying on me, but I hope you can see what I'm drawing. And then that would go to your DC, and then you would have a wire here that also goes to your DC. And then most likely you would also have that little connection right there, like I do on my other builds. I'm sorry that I need to get a new pen. That's really hard to see. If you have any questions about this, and if you feel like there is something that is unsure, I have no issues at all making another video about this. I've done a video before about this, but it wasn't super well thought out, I think, because it wasn't named after this, because it was just a guitar pedal builder's life hack or something like that, which I don't know if that's a good way of making videos, to just be like, here's a series of videos and I don't necessarily tell you what it is. I don't know. It's one of those being a YouTuber thing that I'm not really doing, since I don't think I am a YouTuber. But anyway, now I'm rambling about stuff that isn't important. Here it is. You can look at it, you can copy it, and yeah. I don't think I have anything more to say about this thing, so you're gonna have to ask me questions if there's something you want to know about it, because I have no idea. If you liked the video, don't forget to press the like button and the subscribe button. If this helped you, let me know in the comments below. If it didn't help you and you have questions, you can write those below, and I'll do an update video about this. I'd more than happy to answer all your questions. You can also talk to me on Instagram if you want some nicer pictures, close-up of this maybe, or if you maybe are building your own version of this and you want me to take a look at your pictures. That's what I'm using Instagram for. I'm not really using it for anything else. So talk to me there if you want to. Until next time, stay awesome and cool, and go and do some weird experiments with pedals. Just switch things out and see what happens. Be careful so you don't switch out something in the power section of the pedal so that everything just catch on fire because you've changed the values of something. Or do that too, you know, you learn from mistakes. So, yeah.